Made you something special, babe. My name is Vincent. I am 34 years old, and I run a small chemical testing laboratory in Spokane, Washington. The cup my wife Sophia handed me that Sunday morning smelled wrong. Not coffee wrong or burnt wrong. Chemical wrong. I had been married to Sophia for 8 years. We met when she was finishing nursing school, and I was starting my business. Back then, she brought me soup when I worked late nights calibrating equipment. She laughed at my bad jokes about pH levels. She made me feel like the smartest man in the room, even when her family made it clear I was not. Her sister Vanessa had been visiting for 3 days. 3 days of snide comments about my little science project and how Sophia could have done better. 3 days of watching Sophia nod along like she agreed. 3 days of me biting my tongue while Vanessa treated our home like her personal stage for performing superiority. The night before, Sophia and I had argued. Nothing explosive, just the quiet kind of fight that happens when one person stops defending their husband and the other person stops expecting them to. She accused me of being too sensitive about Vanessa's jokes. I told her I was tired of being the punchline in my own house. We went to bed without saying goodnight. Now she stood in our kitchen at 8 in the morning, holding a steaming mug with both hands like an offering. Her smile was too bright. Too apologetic. The kind of smile that said she wanted to fix things without actually changing anything. My own herbal blend, she continued. It will help you relax. I took the cup. The liquid was dark amber, almost brown. Steam carried a scent that made my stomach turn. Bitter herbs, yes. But underneath that, something medicinal. Something that reminded me of the industrial solvents I used to clean lab equipment. Sophia watched my face carefully. Too carefully. Smells strong, I said. Good strong, she replied. From the living room, I could hear Vanessa on the phone with someone, probably our mother-in-law, probably complaining about the guest room towels or the water pressure, or how I loaded the dishwasher wrong. Her voice carried that particular tone she used when she wanted everyone to know she was suffering through my inadequacy. I raised the cup toward my lips and stopped. Something in Sophia's expression flickered. Anticipation, maybe, or curiosity about what would happen next. "You're awesome," I said, and kissed her cheek. But I did not drink the tea. I built my laboratory from nothing. 5 years of community college chemistry courses while working construction. Another 3 years saving every dollar to lease a small building on the industrial side of town. Equipment bought piece by piece from bankruptcy auctions. Late nights learning to operate mass spectrometers and gas chromatographs from YouTube videos and borrowed textbooks. The business started with soil testing for local contractors. Simple work, checking for contamination before construction projects. But word spread. Soon I was analyzing water samples for the city, testing products for small manufacturers, even helping law enforcement with evidence analysis. Nothing glamorous, just honest work that required precision and patience. Sophia used to brag about my work. She would tell her nursing colleagues about the time I identified a bacterial contamination that saved a daycare center from a lawsuit, or how I helped a farmer prove his well water was being polluted by an upstream factory. She called me her scientist husband with genuine pride. That pride had been fading for 2 years, ever since Vanessa moved back to Washington after her divorce and started spending every holiday, every birthday, every random weekend at our house. Vanessa worked in pharmaceutical sales. She drove a leased BMW and wore designer clothes and spoke about real science happening at major corporations. She made my small laboratory sound like a hobby. At first, Sophia defended me. She would remind Vanessa that I had built something from scratch, that my clients trusted my work, that independence meant something. But those defenses grew weaker each visit. Then they became laughs. Then they became silence. 3 months ago, Sophia suggested I should consider pivoting my career. Maybe get a job at one of the big labs in Seattle. Better benefits, more stability, more respect from her family. I told her I would think about it. I thought about it plenty. I thought about how my grandfather spent 40 years in someone else's factory and died 6 months after retirement. I thought about the farmers and contractors and city officials who called me directly because they trusted my independence. I thought about the satisfaction of solving problems with my own hands and my own brain. I also thought about the way Sophia looked at me when Vanessa was around. Like she was embarrassed. Like she wished I was someone else. Yesterday morning before our argument, I had overheard Sophia on the phone with Vanessa. They were discussing my stubbornness about keeping the lab. Sophia said maybe I needed something to help me see things more clearly. Vanessa laughed and said she knew exactly what Sophia meant. At the time, I thought they were talking about couples therapy. Now, holding this strange-smelling tea, I wondered if they had been talking about something else entirely. Vanessa walked into the kitchen carrying her phone and a look of practiced annoyance. She had been complaining to someone about the coffee maker, which apparently did not froth milk to her specifications. She set her phone on the counter and reached for the cup sitting next to mine. "Finally," she said, "something that smells decent in this house." I watched Sophia's face go pale. "Vanessa, wait," Sophia started. But Vanessa had already taken a long sip. She paused, made a face, then shrugged and took another drink. "Weird aftertaste, but whatever, I need caffeine." Sophia looked at me. I looked back. Neither of us moved to stop Vanessa from finishing half the cup. "Vincent," Sophia said carefully, "you should drink yours while it is still hot." I picked up my cup, the one Vanessa had not touched, the one that smelled like normal chamomile tea with honey. "This one?" "No, Sophia stopped herself. I understood then. 2 cups. 2 different contents, one for me, one that was supposed to be mine but was not anymore. "I think I will wait," I said. "Let it cool down a little." Vanessa finished her tea and went back to her phone call. Sophia busied herself cleaning dishes that were already clean. I sat at the kitchen table and watched both of them. An hour later, Vanessa started complaining about stomach cramps. Mild at first, then more intense. She accused Sophia of using expired milk in something. Sophia suggested maybe Vanessa had eaten too much rich food the night before. Both of them seemed genuinely confused about what could be causing the problem. I offered to drive Vanessa to urgent care. Sophia said that was not necessary. Just some stomach flu, probably. Nothing serious. But by noon, Vanessa was vomiting and experiencing severe diarrhea. She was pale and shaky and demanding that someone call a doctor. Sophia was pacing the house, wringing her hands, saying she could not understand what was happening. I could understand perfectly. While Sophia helped Vanessa to the guest bathroom for the 4th time, I carefully poured the remaining contents of my cup into a clean sample vial. Then I washed the cup thoroughly and put it in the dishwasher. By evening, Vanessa was stable but exhausted. She had stopped vomiting but was still weak and dehydrated. Sophia insisted we take her to the emergency room. The doctors ran tests, found nothing immediately dangerous, and recommended rest and fluids. Possible food poisoning, they said. Or a 24-hour bug. Vanessa spent the night in our guest room, groaning softly and drinking small sips of water. Sophia slept on the couch to be nearby if Vanessa needed anything. I slept in our bed, alone, thinking about the sample vial in my briefcase. Monday morning, I took that sample to my laboratory. The results came back Tuesday afternoon. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry does not lie. The tea sample contained chamomile, honey, and a concentrated extract of cassia angustifolia, senna leaf, a powerful laxative that in high doses causes severe gastrointestinal distress, dehydration, and temporary incapacitation. Someone had deliberately prepared a cup of tea designed to make the drinker violently ill. That someone was my wife. I sat in my laboratory office, staring at the printout, trying to make sense of why Sophia would want to poison me. We had problems, yes. She was unhappy with my career choices. Her family looked down on me. But poisoning seemed like an extreme escalation from nagging about job applications, unless it was not about changing my mind, unless it was about something else entirely. I drove home early that day. Sophia was in the kitchen, preparing dinner like nothing had happened. Vanessa had finally felt well enough to eat solid food and was holding court at our dining table, describing her traumatic experience to someone on speakerphone. "How are you feeling?" I asked Sophia. Fine, she said. Worried about Vanessa, obviously, but fine. And how am I supposed to be feeling? She paused, wooden spoon halfway to her mouth for tasting. What do you mean? I mean, if I had drunk that tea instead of Vanessa, how would I be feeling right now? The spoon clattered against the pot. Sophia turned to face me, and I saw something I had never seen before in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, calculation. I do not know what you are talking about, she said. Senna leaf, I said quietly. Concentrated extract. Enough to cause severe symptoms for 6 to 8 hours. Enough to require medical attention. Her face went completely blank. I have no idea what that is. It is what was in my tea. The tea you specifically made for me. The tea that Vanessa drank by mistake. You are being paranoid. I am being scientific. I tested the sample. I have the results. Sophia crossed her arms. You tested what sample? The tea I did not drink. The tea you watched me not drink. The tea you expected me to finish. For a moment, neither of us spoke. From the dining room, Vanessa's voice carried on about hospital bills and incompetent emergency room doctors. Even if that were true, Sophia said finally, which it is not, why would you think I would do such a thing? Because you wanted me incapacitated, sick enough to miss work for several days, sick enough to need care, sick enough to be dependent on you for something. That is insane. Is it? Because while I was supposed to be vomiting and helpless, what were you planning to do? Go through my files? Access my computer? Maybe have Vanessa help you look through my business records? Sophia's expression shifted, still denying but differently now, like someone who had been caught in a smaller lie and was trying to avoid admitting to a bigger one. I would never hurt you, she said, but you would drug me. I did not drug anyone. Then explain the senna leaf. I cannot explain something that did not happen. We stared at each other across the kitchen island. 8 years of marriage reduced to this, a laboratory test result, and 2 people who no longer trusted each other. I want you to leave, I said. This is my house too. I want you to pack a bag and stay somewhere else while I figure out what you were really trying to do. You cannot kick me out based on some paranoid theory. I can ask my wife to give me space after she tried to poison me. Most people would consider that reasonable. Sophia grabbed her purse and car keys. I am going to stay with my mother. When you come to your senses, you can call me and apologize. She left without packing a bag, like she had been planning to leave anyway. Vanessa, still recovering in the guest room, called out asking where Sophia was going. I told her Sophia needed to run some errands. Vanessa accepted this explanation and went back to her phone. I spent the evening alone wondering what other surprises my wife had been planning. Wednesday morning, I did something I had never done before. I searched through Sophia's personal belongings, her dresser drawers, her closet, her desk in our home office. I felt like a criminal, but I needed to understand what had been happening in my own house. In the bottom drawer of her desk, underneath old tax forms and expired warranties, I found a folder labeled Vincent Lab Information. Inside were photocopies of my business license, my insurance policies, my client contracts, and my financial statements. Documents I had never given her copies of. Documents she would have had to take from my locked filing cabinet in the laboratory. There were also printed emails, conversations between Sophia and someone named James Morrison at a company called Trellvix Analytics. The subject lines were variations of acquisition opportunity and small lab consolidation. I read every email twice. James Morrison worked in business development. His company specialized in buying small independent laboratories and incorporating them into larger networks. They offered competitive packages to lab owners who wanted to transition out of the stress of independent operation. Sophia had been providing him with detailed information about my business, client lists, revenue figures, equipment inventories, location details. She had even included photographs of my laboratory interior and copies of my most recent profit and loss statements. In return, James had been coaching her on how to encourage me to consider selling. He suggested creating situational pressure that would make independence seem less attractive. He recommended having family members express concerns about my financial stability. He even provided talking points about the benefits of working for a larger organization. The most recent email was dated last Friday, 3 days before Sophia made me the tea. James, if he remains resistant to logical arguments, you may need to create a situation where he feels vulnerable or dependent. Nothing harmful, obviously, but something that demonstrates how difficult it is to manage everything on his own. Sometimes people need to experience their limitations before they can accept help. Sophia, I understand. I think I know how to handle this. James. Remember, the goal is to have him contact us voluntarily. If he feels like the sale was his idea, everyone benefits. Your finder fee will be $25,000 once the transaction is complete. $25,000. My wife had been paid to sabotage my business and manipulate me into selling. I photographed every document with my phone. Then I called my attorney, Patricia Young, and scheduled an emergency appointment for that afternoon. Patricia read through the emails and shook her head. This is corporate espionage, possibly fraud. Definitely grounds for divorce if you want to go that route. What about the poisoning? That is harder to prove intent. She could claim the senna leaf was an accident, but combined with these emails, it establishes a pattern of deliberate harm. What should I do? Document everything. Change all your passwords and access codes. Move your important business files to a secure location. And do not let her back in the house until we sort out the legal implications. I spent Wednesday evening changing locks and passwords. I also called my 3 largest clients and warned them that someone might contact them claiming to represent my business. I did not mention Sophia by name, but I made it clear that any acquisition discussions should go through me directly. Thursday morning, Vanessa finally felt well enough to leave. She hugged me goodbye and thanked me for taking such good care of her during her food poisoning. She also mentioned that she hoped Sophia and I could work out our communication issues. I smiled and told her I was confident everything would be resolved soon. After Vanessa left, I sat in my empty house and planned what to do next. Friday morning, I called James Morrison at Trellvix Analytics. Mr. Morrison, this is Vincent Hayes. I understand you have been interested in my laboratory. There was a pause. Mr. Hayes. Yes, I have been hoping to speak with you. Your wife mentioned you might be open to discussing a potential partnership. She mentioned that, did she? She indicated you were considering your options, looking for ways to reduce the stress of independent operation. Well, she was right about the stress. Running a small business can be overwhelming, especially when you cannot trust the people closest to you. Another pause. I am sorry to hear that. Business relationships can be challenging. Personal relationships too, but I am calling because I think it is time we had a direct conversation about your interest in my company. Excellent. I would be happy to arrange a meeting. Are you available early next week? Actually, I was thinking we should meet today, this afternoon if possible. I am eager to move forward quickly. That seems rather sudden. My wife made it clear that time is a factor. Something about demonstrating my limitations and creating situational pressure. You know how these things work. The line went completely quiet. Mr. Morrison, are you still there? Yes, I am here. I think there may be some confusion about my conversations with your wife. No confusion at all. I read the emails, every one of them, including the parts about my finder fee and helping me experience my vulnerabilities. Mr. Hayes, I think you may have misunderstood. I understood perfectly. You paid my wife to sabotage my business and manipulate me into selling. You coached her on creating pressure situations. You even suggested she make me feel dependent and vulnerable. That is not exactly. The question now is whether you want to deal with me directly, or whether you would prefer to explain your business practices to the state attorney general. Corporate espionage is a serious crime in Washington. James cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this in person. I think that would be wise. We arranged to meet at 2 o'clock at a coffee shop downtown. I spent the morning preparing. I printed copies of all the emails and Sophia's business records theft. I also prepared a written statement detailing the poisoning incident and its connection to the acquisition scheme. At 2 o'clock sharp, James Morrison walked into the coffee shop. He was younger than I had expected, maybe 30, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He looked nervous. "Mr. Hayes?" "Vincent, please sit down." He sat across from me and immediately started talking. "I want to clarify that Trellvix Analytics operates completely within legal boundaries. We acquire businesses through legitimate negotiations. We do not engage in industrial espionage or encourage illegal activities." "Interesting, because I have documentation suggesting otherwise." I slid a folder across the table. James opened it and read for several minutes. His face grew paler with each page. "These emails were taken out of context," he said finally. "Which context makes corporate espionage legal? We never instructed your wife to break any laws. You instructed her to steal my business records and manipulate me into a vulnerable state. In most jurisdictions, that qualifies as fraud and conspiracy." James closed the folder. "What do you want?" "I want you to stay away from my business. I want you to cease all contact with my wife. And I want you to understand that if I hear about Trellvix targeting any other small lab owners in this region, I will make sure the appropriate authorities know about your methods." "And in return?" "In return, I do not file criminal charges today." James stood up. "This conversation never happened." "On the contrary, this conversation is why nothing else will happen." He left without saying goodbye. Monday morning, Sophia came home. She walked into our kitchen like she had never left, poured herself coffee, and sat at the table where she had tried to poison me 8 days earlier. "I think we need to talk," she said. "I think we already talked enough." I placed the folder of emails on the table between us. Sophia glanced at it but did not touch it. "Those are private communications," she said, "between you and James Morrison, about selling my business for $25,000. She opened the folder and flipped through the pages. No surprise on her face, no shame, just calculation. "You went through my personal belongings. You went through my business files. You photographed my laboratory. You copied my client contracts. You stole 8 years of my work and tried to sell it to strangers. I was trying to help you. By poisoning me? I never poisoned anyone. Senna leaf extract, concentrated enough to cause severe gastrointestinal distress, designed to make me sick and dependent and vulnerable, just like James suggested." Sophia closed the folder. "You cannot prove intent. I can prove conspiracy, corporate espionage, theft of business documents, and attempted assault with a dangerous substance. No prosecutor would take that case. Maybe not, but the state licensing board would be very interested. So would my insurance company. So would James Morrison's corporate compliance department." She stood up. "What do you want, Vincent?" "I want you to sign divorce papers. I want you to relinquish any claim to my business or its assets. I want you to move out permanently. And if I refuse? Then I file criminal charges and civil lawsuits and make sure everyone in this industry knows what Trellvix Analytics does to small business owners." Sophia walked to the window and stared out at our backyard. 8 years of marriage. 2 years of planning my destruction. 10 minutes of consequences. I need time to find a place to live. You have until Friday. That is not enough time. It was enough time for you to plan destroying my life. It should be enough time to plan rebuilding yours. Sophia moved out on Thursday. She took her clothes, her books, and her car. She left everything else, including the coffee maker that had never frothed milk to Vanessa's specifications. I signed the divorce papers the following month. Sophia did not contest anything. No alimony, no property division, no ongoing obligations. She wanted the dissolution to be as quiet as possible. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to Seattle and took a job at a large hospital. Corporate nursing, benefits and stability and respect from people who did not know about her side businesses. James Morrison sent me a formal letter stating that Trellvix Analytics would not pursue any acquisition opportunities in Eastern Washington. He also included a check for $25,000 with a note saying it represented previously paid consultation fees that were being returned due to services not rendered. I deposited the check and used the money to upgrade my mass spectrometer. 6 months later, my business was stronger than ever. Word had spread about my discretion in handling sensitive matters. Law enforcement agencies started sending me more complex cases. A pharmaceutical company hired me to verify the purity of their raw materials. I was busier than I had ever been. On a quiet Sunday morning in March, I made myself coffee and sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Sophia had handed me poisoned tea and smiled like she was doing me a favor, the same table where I had confronted her with the evidence of her betrayal. I thought about trust in marriage and the price of independence. I thought about how close I had come to drinking that tea, and how differently everything might have ended. But mostly I thought about how good it felt to wake up in a house where no one was planning to destroy me. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim.